seated. Thanks. I appreciate being back in Hialeah Gardens, especially on today at this museum, because today is, man, believe it or not, the 63rd anniversary of the Bay of Pigs. And so I know we have a lot of members from the brigade that are here. We obviously will commemorate many of them who are not be able to be with us today. And so that's something that's meaningful. That was a noble cause. We've seen what's happened on the island of Cuba over these many decades because of totalitarian ideology, communist ideology. And you've wrecked a society because of that tyranny. And I think the people from the brigade can speak to that better than anybody else. And so because of that anniversary, I think it's fitting that we're here talking about and signing the legislation that I'm going to speak about in just a minute. I do want to recognize the folks that we have with us today. We have our Commissioner of Education, Manny Diaz from Miami-Dade County. We have Senator Jay Collins. We have our Miami-Dade College President, Madeline Pumariega. We have Felix Rodriguez, who's the president here and a great American. Rafael Montalvo, President Bay of Pigs Brigade 2506 Veterans Association. Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez. We have a number of our state representatives, Basabi, Fabricio, Rizzo, Garcia, Redondo, Porras, and then we have Yuli. Where's Yuli? I saw her, the executive director of the Bay of Pigs Museum. So I want to thank her for being here. So we know that the Bay of Pigs was launched because the island of Cuba had succumbed to communist tyranny, and there were folks that wanted to free it, and they wanted to do something about it. It's almost lost in the shuffle of our daily lives and all the different things that happen. In fact, not only is it lost about the evils of communism, you go to a lot of institutions in our own country, a lot of these colleges, you know, they try to rehabilitate communism. They try to whitewash communism. Sometimes they'll say, well, true communism has never been tried, all this. So there's apologists for communism in our society. And what we're doing today builds off the stake in the ground that we planted in the state of Florida many years ago when I first became governor. It's that we're going to tell the truth about communism in the state of Florida. We're going to tell the truth about the evils of communism. We're going to tell the truth about the unprecedented death toll of the 20th century at the hands of communist tyranny. 100 million killed at the hands of communist regimes spreading from China to the Soviet Union to Cuba. Those are the facts, and those are what we need to be very clear-eyed about. Now, we have signed in previous years legislation that codified in state law Victims of Communism Day for November 7th of every year. So we launched that in 2022, and we're now here today. Now, as part of that, the legislation required 45 minutes of instruction in a U.S. government class on topics related to the history of communism, things like Mao Zedong and the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward, Joseph Stalin and the Stalinist regime, Fidel Castro and the tyrannical Cuban regime, Lenin and the Russian Revolution, Pol Pot, Nicolas Maduro, more recently, and the Chavismo movement in Venezuela. So all of those topics are just providing the truth of what actually happened. And I think it's important that people know the details, but you don't even, what I can just say is, I didn't see people fleeing into Mao's China. I didn't see people fleeing into the Soviet Union. People are fleeing these regimes, and they fled these regimes over many, many decades because of how tyrannical they were. So this is the first full school year that instruction was implemented. The Department of Education has released standards with lesson plans to assist educators in the coursework creation. We also established, to build off that, our Portraits of Patriotism and Stories of Inspiration initiatives, which enables the Florida Department of Education to develop curriculum and resources based on the personal stories of victims of communism and to highlight the importance of individual freedom. Additionally, we secured funding a couple years ago to restore and preserve the historic Freedom Tower in downtown Miami, and that was like $20+ million that we were able to do. So we think that it's a beautiful building that needed some love, but we also believe just symbolically it's very important about the state of Florida standing for freedom. And so we were happy to be able to deliver the funding to be able to get that done. So that brings us here today. We have a piece of legislation on the desk, Senate Bill 1264, which builds off the success that we've had in telling the truth about communism and communist regimes. And so this will add to the teaching standards. This legislation is adding a history of communism in the United States, as well as a review of the tactics used by communist activists and movements here in the United States and throughout history. So that is going to make the education about communism much more comprehensive, and it's going to give the students the truth about communism. And look, my view on this is we might as well tell them the truth when they're in our schools, because a lot of these universities they're going to be told how great communism is, so we're setting the proper foundation, I guess. The bill also establishes the newly established Institute for Freedom in the Americas at Miami-Dade College, and that will partner with the Adam Smith Center for Economic Freedom at Florida International University, and the goal will be to promote the importance of economic and individual freedoms as a means to advance human progress, and that will be really leading amongst all of Florida's post-secondary institutions. We'll have this great center between Miami-Dade and Florida International University right here down in South Florida, which will be great. And so I think you'll see, of course, different types of courses, but you're going to see workshops, you're going to see conferences, you're going to see symposia. I mean, if you look around in the Americas now, there's not a lot of bright spots. There are a few, and those are things that I think we should cherish and we should honor appropriately. They will also make sure that we provide educational and experience opportunities for leaders throughout Florida and really even throughout the Southeast region. And that could be people in government, it could be people in business, it could be people in a whole variety of contexts. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm glad Miami-Dade College is going to take the lead on that. And then finally, the bill authorizes the Florida Department of State as well as the Department of Education to provide a blueprint to the legislature by the end of this year so that we can create a museum here in Florida documenting the history of communism. And that'll be something that'll be really, really significant. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people down here that are going to want to see it located down in Miami, and we'll see how that works out. But that'll be something that'll be really, really important to be able to promote the truth. So I want to thank the legislators for spearheading this. We're proud of the legislation that we've done. We're proud of the funding that we've done. We're proud of all that. And I think that there was a view in the legislature that said, yeah, that's great, but we want to do more. We want to make sure this is more comprehensive. So they deserve a lot of credit for their leadership, and you'll hear from Senator Collins on that. So 63 years ago, we had a lot of brave men suit up and fight communism and fight tyranny. And so today we're here fighting tyranny and fighting communism in a little bit different venue, in a little bit different way through legislation, but we are committed to telling the truth about this ideology, and we are going to make sure that people have a very accurate understanding of the human carnage that has resulted from communist regimes throughout history. So